everyone, this is the Vortex Chicken, and welcome back to Explosive Bunnies. So today we're going to be taking a look at what I believe to be the 5 most overrated weapons in all of Terraria. Now, of course, this is just my opinion, so please don't scream at me in the comments. Now, to clarify, before I open the first chest, which will no doubt surprise you, this is based on both usefulness and popularity. For something to be underrated, that means it's not used enough. It has a high usefulness factor and a low popularity factor, at least a relatively low popularity factor. But for something to be overrated, which is what we're looking at in this video, it has to be the opposite. It has to be a lot more popular than it is useful. That said, the number 5 most overrated weapon in all of Terraria, in my opinion, is the musket. You're probably thinking, well, what? It's a really good weapon. But even though it's super easy to get and it has borderline 60 DPS with no buffs and higher when you factor in crits and better bullets, it just doesn't stack up to some of the other weapons that are not near as popular. The musket is probably the most recommended weapon for the Eye of Cthulhu, and it's not nearly as good as the boomstick, the diamond staff, and the mini shark, which are all pretty easy to get still and have much higher DPS. That said, please don't scream at me in the comments. Moving on. Number 2 on this list, number 4, counting backwards, number 4 on this list is the Hornet Staff. Now, I know what Hornet Staff defenders are thinking. It doesn't have invincibility frames. It's amazing. Well, excuse me while I turn the difficulty up to normal, which is 1.0. Anyway, this is going to be a normal mode King Slime, and this is how much trouble the Hornet Staff has against it. Now, a reminder that you would probably have obsidian armor and a whip, which would make this go much faster. But this is a weapon that is recommended for Skeletron, and it can barely put up with King Slime. With a whip, it's still not very good. I wish I had a whip to show you, but I feel like the Hornet Staff is just a missed opportunity because it's overshadowed by the Imp Staff, as is the Summoner Armor from Queen Bee, the Bee Armor. I know it's crafted, not dropped, but the Bee Armor, which is post Queen Bee, is significantly worse than the Obsidian Armor, which is pre-Queen Bee and only after the Eater of Worlds or Brain of Cthulhu, and the same goes with the Hornet Staff and Imp Staff. I feel like the Hornet Staff and the Bee Armor just really need a buff. And that is why the Hornet Staff sits at number 4 most overrated weapon. Number 3 on this list is the Resonance Scepter. I can't say it. Resonance Scepter. Why can't I say that? It is a post-Plantera weapon, a post-Plantera magic weapon that requires getting the princess and also killing her an average of 8 times, which is number 1, cruel, and number 2, painstaking and tiring, especially after doing so much work to get the princess. Now, with that said, it should be a pretty good weapon. And when looked at on 5 targets, it is. It is a pretty good weapon, but it's still overshadowed by other weapons that pierce, which Mage has quite a lot of. And then when you look at it on single targets, it's a poor excuse for a post-Plantera weapon. It probably should either be significantly buffed or the princess should be moved earlier. Now, the number 2 weapon on this list is probably going to cause some hate in the comments for those of you who haven't played 1.4.1, because it is the famous quad barrel shotgun. Before the 1.4.1 update, this thing was ridiculously overpowered, and it was super popular, but rightfully so. It would never go on one of these lists. But 1.4.1 completely ruined this weapon. Not only did it make it post-Skeletron, but it also nerfed it. It removed 7 damage. It made it, I think, 10 ticks slower. And that really did its wonders on ruining the DPS. And then it made it shoot 6 bullets, which would seem good, but 1, it makes the name useless. It's a quad barrel shotgun. How do you shoot 4 bullets out of 6 barrels? I mean, 6 bullets out of 4 barrels. And then, number 2, it really didn't help because it's such an inaccurate weapon that those 2 extra bullets are probably still going to not hit. So what it's done is been moved post-Skeletron, and it's also bad. Let me show you. At first glance, it looks pretty good. It has really good, respectable DPS. But then, when you think about the fact that you would never be that close to an enemy, you really start to realize how bad this is. In 5 shots, 2 bullets hit. That's 30 bullets that were shot, and only 2 of them hit. This weapon is still talked about a lot by YouTubers like Happy Days. Sorry to call you out, but he got it in his hardcore master mode playthrough to use against the Wall of Flesh. Of course, he didn't use it for most of the fight, but it's still just a waste of inventory space, and since it's still so popular, it has to be on this list. And finally, drumroll please, the number 1 most overrated weapon. Oh, I haven't desummoned my Hornets. Wow. The number 1 most overrated weapon in all of Terraria is the Zenith. Yes. Let's go hate comments. You're probably thinking that I'm a total lunatic, because unless you're Mappy Gaming, this is the number 1 most overpowered weapon in the game. But that does not mean it's the most useful. 1, it's the hardest to get, which deteriorates from it a lot. And number 2, there's nothing to do once you get it. In fact, getting the Zenith is really the only thing people ever do after beating Moonlord. Sure, there are the overpowered builds and everything like them, but there is nothing you can actually do in-game with the Zenith that isn't already pretty easy without it. With that said, it is by far the most popular weapon now. If someone has to make a video on one weapon in Terraria, it's gonna be this. So that is why I consider it to be the most overrated weapon in Terraria, because there is absolutely nothing that you can do with it. That said, I hope that you agree with at least one of these rankings, and I also hope you have a good day or whatever. Please like the video if you truly like it, and maybe consider subscribing to Explosive Bunnies. And bye.